No way they just said this, as Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks just called out the Houston Rockets after the massive trade that sent both of them to Phoenix in exchange for Kevin Durant. We show you the clip and what they said all right here on Rockets Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. We're happy you chose to tune into the show today. As always, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free. And if you want your latest news, information, and updates on your H-Town team, we have got you covered. The Kevin Durant trade was a blockbuster, to say the least. However, that did not make it any less weird when we saw Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks talking with the Phoenix Suns media at NBA Summer League rather than the Houston Rockets media. Now, this is no offense to Jalen Green or Dillon Brooks. I love them both and give them huge credit for the rebuild that they truly started in Houston. However, when it comes to the trade for Kevin Durant, I do consider it a bargain, considering those were the two guys you gave up, along with 5 second-round picks. And we all know the NBA is a business. However, I did not exactly expect to see this headline. Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green take shots at Houston Rockets during the Phoenix Suns media session. Interesting. Now, I love Jalen Green. I love Dillon Brooks. However, I'm going to say these things just from a kind of looking of an outside perspective. You have a young player who did not perform well in the playoffs and said time and time again he wanted to stay in Houston, alongside Dillon Brooks, who I'm going to call him an enforcer. He's a guy who's always out there on the court, standing up for his teammates, and being that kind of like brute force guy that says, hey, if you mess with my teammates, you mess with me. And so when you combine those two and you send him off in a trade, especially with the position that the Houston Rockets are in, where I'm not going to say a trade was absolutely necessary for them to be competitive for an NBA championship, but it definitely was a big help. It can create for some, I'm going to call it a little bit of bad blood. Now, that's not to say that Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks don't understand that this was a business move to make the Houston Rockets better, but it is a little bit hard when you get traded away from a team that is really now on the cusp of a championship. And that's exactly where we go in the article, where we have this from Ben Bilkin of Burn City Sports saying, quote, Brooks decided to talk with the press on the side during the game, and when interacting with the media, Suns shooting guard Jalen Green came up to ask Brooks a couple of questions, end quote. Now, what exactly did Jalen Green come up to ask Dillon Brooks? Well, that is where the clip comes in. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of back because I think you need to understand what the question he asked before I show you the clip. He asked this, quote, Green, with a smile on his face, asked, how do you feel about the trade? And what do you think we are about to do with the Phoenix Suns? End quote. That is exactly where I start the clip for you.
About the trade, what you think we're going to do with the Phoenix Suns?
I love the trade. You know, it gives me and Jalen an opportunity to showcase, in Phoenix.
Motivation.
Great fans. What you say?
I said motivation.
Yeah. And then for you especially when we play Houston, it's going to be a lot of motivation for you.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we both came together.
Okay. Not exactly what I expected to hear. Now, I wouldn't call that like, firing at the Rockets, but it's obvious that they're using this trade as motivation, and the NBA regular season calendar has not yet come out. I'm going to start with that. But I guarantee you, especially with the way the Houston Rockets have built their team, the primetime games they're going to get, that Phoenix Suns versus Houston Rockets game will be prime time. And that is going to be specifically to see Jalen Green play against his old team. Yes, Kevin Durant's playing against the Phoenix Suns, but I think that is less important than Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks playing against their former squads. So that is an interesting one. Now, it was a little hard to hear, so let's kind of go back and recap what exactly was said in that clip. Here it is, quote, I love the trade. It gives me and Jalen an opportunity to showcase us in Phoenix. Now, this is where we come in and saying, during the middle of his answer, Green jokingly coughed and added his 2 cents saying, motivation. Brooks then continued and expanded on his point by adding, for you, yeah, especially. When we play Houston, it's going to be a lot of motivation for you. I'm happy we both came together, though, end quote. Okay, so Jalen Green is obviously saying, when I play the Houston Rockets, I want to play to the best of my abilities because they traded me away. They didn't believe in me. And while that is somewhat true, I think, again, he understands it was a business. And that's kind of where we have to literally look at Jalen Green, because was he fantastic last year in the regular season for the most part? Yes, 21 points per game. His stats were all pretty solid. I mean, he took a lot of shots, but as you'd expect, a 23, nearly 24-year-old, he's going to put up this kind of stat line the way he was playing his game. But it really wasn't the regular season that was, quote-unquote, the problem. It was his play in the playoffs that we continuously look at. You talk about a 7-game series against the Golden State Warriors, and 3 games you put up double digits out of the 7, not to mention 2 of those were 11 and 12 points. It's just not what we can expect. And quite frankly, if he doesn't have a 38-point outburst in game 2, his points per game is in the single digits for the playoffs. That's how bad he had played. And quite frankly, he had had 4 years in this league. And not to say he didn't improve. He definitely improved, but not to the ability that the Rockets organization and maybe even some fans were expecting him to. And that's more the reason why I see him being the top trade target and why the Rockets were shopping him across the league. Like, yes, Kevin Durant was the main trade target for him to get out, but he was being shopped across multiple different potential trades in the NBA. And I understand that he's young, and that's quite frankly what I understand. But he did also talk to the media as well, and I think it's important to go to his comments as well. He had this on the trade saying, quote, "Yeah, I had a feeling they've been trying to trade me since last year. I'm not tripping. It's for the better of the team. I know it's a business at the end of the day," end quote. So I can't confirm or deny this report, obviously, but it seems as though the Rockets, according to Jalen Green, have been trying to trade him for the past season now. Basically a year ago is what he's saying, is when they started trying to trade him. So I don't know if there was something the Rockets saw. I don't know if it was just simply put, there wasn't enough growth they saw and they knew that his value was still at a good point. But that is an interesting thing for sure. Very interesting, especially a guy, you had under contract. Like it's a I don't know about that one. That's an intriguing one. Now, he also did have one more quote about it, and this one is it's a little hard to hear for me, to be honest. I love Jalen Green. He said, "It hurts. Houston is home to me and forever will be home to me. I started my NBA career there and built a lot in that situation, obviously. It's sad to leave, but it's a business, though. You got to understand that when coming into the NBA." He's being mature about it. He understands. This is a business move. This is not a, we don't like Jalen Green, let's trade him. Was he surprised that he got traded? No, because the Houston Rockets saw that his value was high and didn't see enough growth, so they decided to say, let's get him out in a trade that hopefully maybe can benefit both of us. Because quite frankly, I think Jalen Green, although it's shooting guard central over there in Phoenix, is going to have a very good success story. Like, I think he's going to turn into a good NBA player, if not great. I just don't think he pushed the needle for the Houston Rockets when it came to getting an NBA championship in the coming years. Kevin Durant pushes the needle, especially with the way the Rockets have formulated this team, with Amen Thompson becoming your new shooting guard and having like 15 different forwards they can use. That's an exaggeration, obviously, but Jalen Green is a bit different situation than I think Dillon Brooks is. Dillon Brooks has been in the league a little longer. He understands more of the business side of things, and funny enough, you'd expect like, oh, he got traded, like they were at the Rockets game for whatever reason, but like there was no way they were like talking to the team, right? No, actually, Dillon Brooks was right in between Ime Udoka and Rafael Stone at the Houston Rockets NBA Summer League game. You can see on the left, Tari Eason, Amen Thompson, and Jabari Smith over there. And then you have Ime Udoka, and on the right side, Rafael Stone. Sitting right in the middle of him is Dillon Brooks. They know that this is a business, especially Dillon Brooks. And Jalen Green, who's young, is definitely going to take a little harder, and understandably so. But the fact of the matter is that that game that will be coming up between the Houston Rockets and the Phoenix Suns is definitely going to be one you're going to want to watch, because Dillon Brooks may not have said it quite as brutally as Jalen Green did, but that is going to be a motivation game. And it's also going to be a motivation game for Kevin Durant in some aspects, because you kind of realize that, listen, this guy literally basically said, the Phoenix Suns fans don't like me. They won me out of there. So it's going to be an interesting situation. That game is going to be a fun game to watch. And quite frankly, I'm excited for this entire season to see both sides of this trade. Like, I'm excited to see, did it work out for the Phoenix Suns? Like, is Jalen Green going to help push the needle over there with Devin Booker and Dillon Brooks and Kamen Malawash? Like, is this trade going to help them out too? Because a lot of people were talking about how much of a fleece, or quite frankly, how good of a deal, probably is the better way to put that the Houston Rockets got in this trade. But again, I can't put the love I have for Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks and how I think they can perform. Now, do I think they're better than Kevin Durant? No. That's why exactly I said this is a bargain of a trade. But quite frankly, it just makes for some fun basketball coming up in the coming days and in the coming years. So we'll keep you updated on the NBA schedule, and when it comes out, obviously we'll circle that Phoenix Suns game because it is going to be a huge one. But that's all we got for you now in today's video. Let me know your thoughts on this. Do you consider this shots? Do you think that maybe this is being a little bit blown out of proportion? Let me know down in the comment section all of your thoughts. And for now, we will see you next time here on Rockets Digest. Peace out, guys, from H-Town.